Hello and welcome to CTV News Across Canada for Tuesday, June 24th. We've got the top local stories from coast to coast. Stories that affect you and the country. Thanks for joining us.
At this Iranian restaurant on White Ave, kebabs and rice are being served up with a side of politics. Customers are talking about the escalating tensions between Iran and Israel.
Yeah, we don't want to fight with anyone. We don't want wars.
Salar Melli came to Canada in 2009. His mom is still in Iran. He says he hasn't been able to reach her in days due to the government shutting down the internet.
She lives in a city that's been hit, but, we can get some messages out very periodically, so I know they're safe for now.
It's been 11 days since Iran and Israel started trading airstrikes. Some from Edmonton's Iranian community say while they don't want to see parts of their country reduced to rubble, they do want to see the government toppled.
I hope this regime falls really fast because people of Iran have no problem with anybody in the West, or I think people of Iran are very kind of want Iran to be a modern country.
This man has been glued to the news reports from back home. He hopes the conflict leads to change.
We were so upset, and worried. Yeah, always they heard the bombing and all of this is the Iranian government fault.
This Iranian activist says the conflict has brought on conflicting thoughts for many Iranians.
One strong viewpoint is that the Islamic regime must end, and they are wanting an end to this tyranny at all costs, this war included. And then there is another group that is opposed to foreign country invading Iran and strongly believe that no democracy will be achieved unless it comes from social movements and change being carried out by the people of Iran.
An Iranian community worried for loved ones back home as the tensions and the strikes escalate. Naramnisa, CTV News, Edmonton.
Searching for shade isn't always fashionable, but with temperatures soaring, staying cool is about balancing comfort with survival.
And I don't want him to get dehydrated. We were just actually playing in the park over there and he started to cry because of the heat, so making sure I have water on hand is great.
Dangerous heat and humidity continue to blanket southern Ontario. While heat waves in June aren't unusual in Toronto, what makes this one feel different is the humidex.
Humidex values in the mid-40s, upper 40s, depending on where you find yourself. So very hot, very sticky, very uncomfortable temperatures throughout this heat event.
At West Preparatory Junior Public School, this space is being used as a cooling center.
This is my multi-purpose room, normally used for kindergarten movement or gym classes or primary classes. But today we've just made sure that classes can come in here at any time.
Each of the TDSB's nearly 600 schools have some type of cooling center, but they don't all have air conditioning. And the board says it doesn't have the money to put them in.
We're in a budgetary situation, so every school is looked at. What can we do to cool, or make sure we have a cooling center? And then again, if they're about to embark upon a renovation, that's when there's a consideration. But it's a lot of money.
That's putting parents in a position to take student safety into their own hands.
A few weeks ago at our parent council meeting, we just decided to take a bunch of funds and order industrial-sized fans.
At Woodbine Beach, Christine and her husband don't love the heat, but it beats the alternative.
You had the option of going inside a mall or outdoors. I choose outdoors.
And if you are going to be spending time outside, it's important to stay hydrated and take breaks from the sun by spending time in the shade to protect yourself from heat stroke.
As it becomes more and more severe, that's when you start to see the neurological complications. So you start to get, a little bit of a headache, maybe a little bit more confused. Maybe you're sort of acting in a way that would be atypical, and that's the beginnings of heat stroke. And then if that progresses, you can, quite frankly, lapse into a coma and die. That does happen.
And with relief still days away, it's important to stay safe and keep your cool. Now, during this heat wave, the city has set up 3 water trailers. There's one at Nathan Phillips Square, Sankofa Square, and Trinity Bellwoods Park. Anyone can go up and get tap water to drink or to fill up their water bottles for free 24 hours a day. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, I'll send it back to you.
All right, thank you, Raheem.
This is what first responders were up against, trying to get to an injured Ottawa boy in Algonquin Park Saturday night.
It took hours to be able to cut our way in using chainsaws,
hand saws, and with the assistance of the Deep River Fire Department, who provided some of the chainsaws to the OPP, we were finally able to make it to the shore of the lake.
During a thunderstorm with strong winds, a tree fell on the tent the 13-year-old was in. He was seriously injured.
The mom sent out an SOS message that indicated her GPS coordinates and the fact that they needed help. And that's what got our people rolling.
On North Depot at that campsite.
Ontario Provincial Police, a specialized team of Renfrew County paramedics, park rangers, and search and rescue joining forces to get to them. A harrowing 25-kilometer trek.
In this circumstance, the paramedics were really going into the unknown, recognizing that roads were washed out, that trees were down, hydro lines were down in many areas, so it was a hazardous situation to begin with.
And then they're going through brush and debris. And then, after all that, there's a 300-meter canoe trip to paddle in so they can start first aid.
The boy was treated at the scene. By morning, a float plane was able to land and fly him and his mom out. He's receiving treatment in hospital. An extraordinary effort, something first responders train for.
So our SARA team goes in fully self-contained with their own tents, their own water, their own food, their own medications, and everything they need to be able to manage someone in these critical first hours of an unfortunate event.
Collaboration, key.
Just an incredible situation, but again, so much teamwork involved. We can't say enough about how seamless this really was.
And just moments ago, the boy's mom told me he has many fractures but is doing okay. She thanks everyone who made the rescue happen, saying they never felt alone, receiving updates from crews along the way. She talked about the importance of being prepared, that having that satellite communication device meant she could make that SOS call right away. She's also taken wilderness first aid courses. Patricia.
Wow, getting that message out and incredible. All the detail of that, Katie. Thanks so much.
Welcome.
CTV's Katie Griffin live for us tonight.
This photo of Khaled El Gamal and Hamza Ben Hilal was taken the day before the close friends and roommates from Surrey set out to explore Bow Glacier in Banff National Park.
We were just enjoying the moment and the view, and we're having some snacks, and then we just heard that loud noise, and then shortly after, the rocks fell.
When the side of the cliff gave way last Thursday, sending rocks crashing onto the trail below, El Gamal, who works as a financial advisor in Port Moody, froze. It was his friend's voice that snapped him out of it.
He did scream out loud, telling me to run, and that's kind of like what helped me get back on to my senses and start running, because I was like in a shock, and I thought it seemed like a movie scene, just seeing rocks coming from the side there.
As El Gamal lost sight of Ben Halil, falling rocks started hitting his legs.
I fell to the ground, and then all I remember is I did my head, I covered my head with my arms, and I just gave positioned my back towards the rocks, and just kept suffering the rock falls. Rock after another was hitting my back.
Somehow El Gamal survived and was able to walk off the trail to find help.
I kept telling them, my friend, where's my friend? Nobody was able to locate him. Nobody was able to see him. We did not know what happened until we heard the news that he was found under the rubble.
El Gamal is in a Calgary hospital with multiple broken bones. But the deeper pain is for the loss of his friend.
He was a very, very generous and a very nice person.
Ben Hilal worked as a network engineer in Burnaby. His brother is flying in to bring the 33-year-old's body back to his home country of Morocco.
We're hoping anybody would kind of like figure something out to compensate the family for their loss.
El Gamal says he owes his life to his friend's quick thinking.
If it wasn't for him, I would have just stood my ground there in shock. As I froze, I don't know, my mind just disengaged at that moment, and he screamed and told me to run, and then I survived.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
After searching the waters off the shore at Port Burwell Provincial Park for nearly 24 hours, OPP have recovered the body of a missing swimmer. Randy Levine, a 35-year-old Woodstock native and Toyota employee, lost his life while saving his daughter when the pair got swept out too far in the water Sunday.
We had a daughter and father go into distress while they're swimming in the waters of Lake Erie here in Port Burwell. Two Good Samaritans came to the rescue of the young teenage daughter. Unfortunately, the father did not resurface.
OPP, the Canadian Coast Guard, and Ontario Park searched the beach hours after Samaritans risked their lives attempting to pull Levine and his daughter to shore. Those at the beach at the time said the water was choppy.
The waves were really big when we got here today, earlier this morning, about a good solid 1.5 meters. The beach was in a panic. Everybody was looking for them because they couldn't, obviously there was a lot of shock and they couldn't contact family members that were still not at the beach or at home. So it was a really scary situation.
The drowning here in Port Burwell was one of 3 major incidents involving water over the weekend in southwestern Ontario. Chatham-Kent police are searching the Thames River for a missing teenage girl, and there were 2 non-fatal drownings in Port Stanley.
No, it took in a lot of water and that, but lifeguards were doing some training in that, and they got them to safety in that, and then along with fire as well, and got them out and got them into EMS hands and taking both to hospital.
On social media Monday, condolences were pouring in and hailing Levine as a hero for saving his daughter.
Thank you to those good Samaritans, and I'd also like to take this opportunity to send out my sincere condolences to all family members and friends that are affected by this tragedy.
Brent Lale, CTV News.
The school year ended on a frustrating note for the teachers after the CAQ government announced more than $500 million in cuts to the province's education system. Quebec's second-largest teachers' union says it's now time for Quebec Education Minister Bernard Drinville to step down.
Pour nous, on aurait voulu un ministre qui arrive à l'Assemblée nationale et qui se bat pour le réseau de l'éducation.
We would have expected a minister to stand up to the premier and remind him that education is a priority, says FAE President Martine Hubert. The government argues the cuts are needed to balance the province's budget.
Il n'y a plus rien à couper en éducation.
There's nothing left to cut, she says. That's where we're at. The Quebec Provincial Association of Teachers, which represents English language teachers, says the FAE's concerns are real.
I think QPAT wouldn't go as far as saying resign, but we definitely would like him to go, and probably as soon as possible, to Mr. Legault to try and backtrack on all the cuts.
In a statement to CTV, the CSQ, which is the province's biggest teachers union, asked, where is the education minister to defend the network? With cuts like this, where's the willingness to prioritize education? In this scenario, services will have to be cut. In the English network, school boards often cover large territories at an added cost to provide services to everyone.
It's just, where are we cutting? There's probably some school boards that if they close the school board, they'd still have $10 million to cut.
Bernard Drinville didn't respond to our request for comments, but the Premier's office ridiculed the FAE's call for his resignation by saying it wouldn't take advice from a union that abandoned students during a 5-week strike 18 months ago. Stéphane Giroux, CTV News.
After multiple delays and claims that are now several years old, the owner of Dutchie's Fresh Market was punished for 13 Employment Standard Act violations. In addition to repaying these employees, Dutchie's was fined $25,000 and Renkma additional $7,500. Good news for the 13 victims, but according to the Ministry of Labor, Dutchie's has roughly 80 violations with over half unsatisfied or under investigation. In a statement to CTV News, Renkma said he is sorry and vows to do better, but some recent employees are not buying it.
He would not do it. It is on own. He had to go through the court because he will never pay anyone like this. I know him. He never pays someone.
Addy, who is not part of this court decision, worked at Dutchie's from June 2024 until February of this year and says he is owed thousands of dollars. After the court ruling, he says he is hopeful.
I am hoping so because the people, 13 people get their money back.
But says he thinks it will only happen if the courts get involved.
I think that will be put stress on him to pay the employees.
Addy says several of his fellow co-workers tell him they are also still waiting on their pay, and CTV News has heard from others who have not been paid their owed wages. At this point, it's unclear if any other violations will be prosecuted. Now, in his statement, Michael Renkema blamed contractors for millions of dollars in losses at the Gateway Park Drive location in Kitchener. However, court records show a refrigeration company successfully sued Dutchies and Renkema for $350,000 because they say Renkema stopped paying them and did not let them finish setting up the refrigeration equipment. Also, around 40 of the 80 Employment Standard Act claims were made well before the December 2021 opening of that Gateway Drive location. That's showing a pretty clear discrepancy in Renkema's statement. Tony.
CTV's Jeff Pickle reporting live with that update. Jeff, thank you for that.
It was just after 10 o'clock Monday morning when neighbors say a bobcat attacked a woman walking her dog.
And then the bobcat ran. As soon as I opened the door, he ran towards the alley. And he attacked Dan and his wife, attacked the woman. She went down with her, and she was screaming.
Police, paramedics, and fish and wildlife officers all responding to the southeast community of Parkland. The woman was sent to hospital with minor cuts and scratches.
Very, very unusual. In my years in the city of Calgary, the only time that we've had bobcats contact humans has been when they feel cornered or threatened.
Neighbors say the bobcat and her kittens have been living under a deck in the area for weeks. They called the city and Fish and Wildlife before, worried something like this would happen.
She's been hunting by herself, and then the kittens stay under the deck, and she comes back with something, drags it under the deck, and we've made noise and kind of banged around and tried to get them to leave, but they're not going in. She wasn't going anywhere.
Cages were brought out and officers tracked the animals. The mother and kittens made multiple trips across the street near where the attack happened.
It's very, very scary. Could it be me? I was going to walk my dog 15 minutes earlier and I didn't, and that's when it all happened.
As of late Monday, the bobcat and kittens still hadn't been captured.
We have to balance out our course of actions, whether we want to euthanize or live trap or just leave things as they are.
Well, that was scary. That sort of changed my mind about those bobcats.
And Jordan joins us from Parkland with more. So, Jordan, what happens now?
Well, Ian, Fish and Wildlife officers left and took the cages and equipment with them a couple of hours ago. The animals still have not been captured. What they are telling people who live here is to ensure that no food or garbage is left outside, and they're also telling people not to let their pets outside alone. There may have to be a more permanent solution if the bobcats are spotted and continue to be an issue here, but wildlife officials are hoping that the bobcats and the kittens will relocate on their own. Ian?
Jordan, thank you.
Even though we're safe, there is a tremendous amount of work that has to be done to bring us back to somewhat normality.
It's been a difficult month for residents forced to evacuate the town of Creighton due to wildfire. As of Sunday, the community is finally allowed to return home.
There was growing impatience on people wanting to get back home and see how their homes are, how the town is.
As of this afternoon, several hundred people had returned to Creighton, while others plan to travel home over the next few days. Residents in need of medical care are asked not to return to the community until essential medical services are back in operation. Mayor Bruce Fidler says infrastructure, including power and cell service, is operational and gasoline is also available. The town is telling those returning to bring groceries and any necessary medications.
We are hoping people phone us or stop by to let us know, but You know, they have more important things to do. They're checking on their home and checking on their property, checking on family.
The SPSA will be in Creighton June 24th to 26th, distributing support checks.
Those are the $500 checks and any outstanding food security support checks. So there's a level of support they will be able to obtain once they return, which most of them have.
The evacuation order for residents of Denair Beach was also lifted. Highway 167 is only open to residents of Denair Beach and those who live along the highway. The roadblock will be removed June 25th. Across the border in Flin Flon, the evacuation order is still in effect until Wednesday. The town of Creighton hopes staggering the removal of the evacuation orders will help manage traffic on the return home. Jasmine Pelche, CTV News, Prince Albert.
One by one, people living in Austria Lake anxiously make their way back into the small community. This after a forest fire broke out just 24 hours before.
I've never been through this before. It is like a really freaky incident. I am so tired right now, you wouldn't believe I haven't slept.
The fire erupted in the area around 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon. It sent police and fire crews on site and homeowners off-site to safety.
She was down the road visiting a friend, and when she came home, she said there's a fire out there. And I went out and looked, and I said, I think we should start packing an overnight bag. It doesn't look good.
It was actually really frightening because we could see the fire like from our house in the distance. So we felt like we had to get out right away.
Today, helicopters and fire crews continued efforts to get the fire that at one point was burning 30 hectares of land fully contained.
The rain that we got yesterday, as well as the weather conditions this morning, has really allowed the crews to make good progress on securing what we call the perimeter. So they're just trying to contain all the hot spots that are around the edge of the fire. And once they get to that status, they'll call it completely under control.
The cause and origin of the fire is still being investigated, but there have been no reports of structural loss or damage. Officials taking this favorable outcome as an opportunity to reinforce prevention, especially with high temperatures on the way.
If anyone is planning to have a campfire or do any burning, they should be checking our daily burn restrictions on the Burn Safe website every day at 2 p.m.
For now, feelings of relief washes over many as crews work to put out what remains.
We just need to give them credit and be patient and let them do their job. It's frustrating, but on the other hand, they're doing what they need to do. And we're safe.
Now, as people make their way back home, officials are recommending that they be prepared in case the situation changes. Todd.
All right, CTV's Vanessa Bright leading us off on the eastern shore of Nova Scotia this evening.
Working around the clock, getting down trees off hydro lines and away from the road, cleanup crews and Hydro One work to restore power. Saturday night's thunderstorm left a trail of destruction.
When the sun came up, there was no trees. There was nothing but a big open field now.
Samuel de Champlain Provincial Park and Kiosk Campground bared the brunt of the storm. Nearly 300 campers were trapped and had to be rescued by first responders, including 2 from Algonquin Park. Several people were injured. As the storm barreled through, Shayna Calix Pitawanaquit and her husband David sheltered their campsite neighbors' children after their father was hurt.
We had them in our trailer for the night so that they could just be safe while they were trying to tend to the injuries.
2 people on our end of the campsites were 2 broken legs at 2 different sites. So I just wanted to make sure where they were at and find a way to get to them. So when the first responders came in, I could lead them to the people.
With so much debris on the road, Highway 17 had to be closed between Bonfield and Mattawa, but it's now open. However, sections of Highway 630 remain closed after the road washed out. States of emergencies are still in place for the townships of Calvin and Bonfield until the roads are fixed.
The situation that we face right now is if a fire truck was going down a road, there are roads that are undermined and they could collapse.
A team from the Northern Tornadoes Project is in the area assessing the damage, trying to determine the magnitude of the storm and if a twister touched down.
It's a lot of trying to really take a look and examine the area and almost maybe try to look for that needle in the haystack sort of scenario.
While officials at the Northern Tornado Project study the data, the cleanup from this storm is going to take some time.
Big thank you for all the first responders, the paramedics, the police.
Eric Tashner, CTV News, Mattawa.